Hi, I'm Annie Banani and I love felting. I just wanted to show you these eggs that I've been felting. These are wet felted with raw wool. And these are what you can do with them. They can be 3D. You can keep them just like this, whole, or you can cut the plastic egg, your mold, and put a little note inside for somebody. So I wrote here, I love you. Pine cones, and I put them in there. It's another little surprise that I do for my daycare children. Or again, you could just leave them like this, have them as decoration, do an Easter egg hunt, and they're super nice. They're super fun to make. I've been obsessively making them for a couple of weeks now. Kits to sell. So if you want to make them with your family, I love crafting with others. It's so much fun. Using our hands, getting off the screen, and getting into that real experience of life. So inside every kit, we have bubble wrap. We have 6 eggs, 6 plastic eggs. So this is the mold. And we have raw wool. So this is sheep's wool that's been carded, washed and brushed and dyed. So we have different colors for your eggs. So we have merino wool, we have Corriedale wool. We'll get into the different kinds of wool and what they do later on in the tutorial. Yeah, and we have our base wool in all different kinds of colors. A little piece of string there. And a variety of colors. So I hope you enjoy your felting kit, and let's get into the process of how to make your felted eggs. So fun. So before we get started with all the fun, we need to set up our space and gather all our stuff. So you will need dish soap. You will need a bowl, and I put some cold water in this bowl. You'll see what will happen after. A kettle of hot water. Please be wary of children around. When there's children around, I always leave the hot kettle on the counter, and I just go get the hot water. I don't just leave it in my working space. You will need a towel, your felting kit, of course, so your wool, your egg, and if you're not using one of my eggs, in the kits I already put tape around the plastic egg so they don't open while you're felting. So if you're using your own eggs, you might want to tape your egg shut so that it stays shut while you're felting. And your bubble wrap. Also, I want to make a mention that if you're felting with kids, I always have like my adult bowl here. For the children, I use a flat pan so the water's not going to spill, and I also use like just a little bit of warm water. It's more cold than warm. Of course, we don't want them to get burnt, right? Okay, so let's set this up then. So now I'm going to put the towel on my surface. Okay. So as I said, I put some cold water in here. And now I'm going to add some hot water. So I put half cold, half warm. Of course, you adapt it to the temperature that suits you. I can handle really hot water, so I tend to go a bit hotter, but please, 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 no burning yourselves. That's not fun. Okay, so now we're going to start felting our eggs. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about wool. So in your kit, you have 2 kinds of wool. The more muted colors are merino wool, and this is a rougher wool, so it's easier to wet felt this wool. And then you have a little bundle of brighter colors, and you can notice that the fibers, these fibers are softer, and so these are a little bit harder to felt. So that's why I only gave you a little bit of colors for accent colors. If you try to make an egg completely with these, it's actually really hard to felt. And then before we begin, I always like to honor the sheep, the wool that the sheep came from. Just thinking of the animal and thanking the animal for providing the wool for us to do our wet felted eggs. So thank you, sheep. These sheep, this wool comes from Alberta. So thank you, sheep from Alberta. Okay, so step 1 is creating a base layer on your egg. So grab your egg, and my base layer is going to be white. In your kits you have either white and gray or just gray. So pick which one that you want. Okay, so now we're going to, all you need is a little bit of wool. So we're going to spread the wool apart. Just going to use a little bit, and I'm going to hold the wool on one part of the egg, and I'm going to wrap it around the egg. So this wrapped 1.5 times. If yours just wraps 1 time, that's okay. Just as long as you have enough length so that when you reach across, you can fold it into the other wool and the wool will stick. See, now the wool is sticking. So now we're going to cover the tips, the bottom and the tip. So I'm going to grab some more wool. This time I'm going to grab a little bit less. See, just about this much. 5 inches, not too thick. We're adding layer upon layer, so you want your layers to be not too thick. So here we are, wrapped it around so that the wool touches each other and it sticks just like magic. Okay, so that is my first layer. Now I'm going to, as you can see, you can't really see the pink. There might be a little bit of pink from the egg here, a little bit of pink. It's not too thick and it's not too thin. I'm now going to add another layer, so I chose some purple here. And for the purple, I'm just going to grab a little bit. It's always best to go less than more because it's easier. It's harder to take away the wool than to add the wool. So I'm just a thin little layer. Again, holding the wool down, giving it a little tug so that I wrap around. And it sticks in place just like that. Voila. I'm going to grab some more purple and go the other way now, all the way around. Yeah, I can even, if you want, you can even stretch the wool around so you can start seeing the white underneath. Okay. Now I'm going to grab those bright colors we were talking about, and really for this you only need like so very little, and I'm going to spread them apart so they're like really thin, and then I'm just going to sometimes the eggs roll away on you, so I'm going to put it on my egg, give it a little tug, and it sticks. Gonna grab some more, and again spreading it apart so it's like really thin. It'll be easier to felt this Corriedale wool with that. Hold it in place, give a little tug, and wrap it around. I'm gonna grab some pink now, again spreading it, just a thin layer just for a bit of color. again. I'm going to add a bit of purple. So if you're doing this with children, this part, the first little while, it's really you that's doing it. But I still think it's really good for children to watch us working with our hands and seeing what happens. They're still really interested in watching us and learning from us. So now we're going to take our water and we're going to grab our soap. And we're going to be very generous with our soap. A good dollop of soap on there. So wet felting, it takes hot water, soap, and friction to bind the fibers together into the felt. So just for this now, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of the water. Just a little bit of the water on, and just give it a gentle squeeze. Being gentle with your egg. Just squeezing it, and if you see any little pieces sticking up, you can just gently put them back in. Maybe add a bit more water and just gently squeeze the egg. You can increase your squeeze as you go along. And if you see little pieces again sticking out, just put them back in. Because right now, if you don't put those little pieces that stick out back in, they won't felt to your egg. You'll have little pieces that are unfelted on your egg. So you just squeeze, keep going, and you might think, wow. Sometimes you wonder, wow, is this really going to work? Yes, it is going to work. You have to have faith and patience. Some more water, a bit more water now. You can become more generous with the water. Keep going just like that, turning it around, going, squeezing on all sides. And already, look, you can see that the fibers are starting to bind together, but it's still very loose. So you need to keep going. Now I'm going to dunk my egg in. And I'm going to squeeze. Always squeezing. Keep going just like that. This is where felting can become like a meditation. Just getting out of our heads and focusing what our hands are doing. Observing the process of the fibers binding together. If you're standing up, you can feel your feet pressed into the floor. If you're sitting down, you can feel yourself sinking into the chair, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your jaw. Just being in the moment, in the process of what's happening. See, now you can see the fibers are starting to really bind together now, and the colors have started mixing together. So I'm going to dunk it in again and keep squeezing. I'm going to start rolling it, just gently rolling it. Just kind of like when you're making a ball with Play-Doh. It's like really light between my fingers, between my hands. Of course, if I wanted to, I could put the video on time-lapse, but I want to stay here with you in real time. So you can see how long it takes, get an idea. I'm going to dump mine in the water again and then keep with the friction. Sometimes I'll go back to squeezing. Okay, my water's really cooled down now, so I'm going to add some more hot water. Again, if young children were around, I would bring this bowl to the counter and pour the hot water at the counter. And I would have my bowl of hot water away from where the children are and set up their own little space with that pan that I showed you. And I would add some bubbles to that water, and they can play in the water while they're waiting for the first egg to be ready for them. And I'm just rubbing the sides. See, it's the friction that is felting the egg. When I'm with the children at this time, while I'm working, sometimes we sing some songs. Now I'm getting more vigorous in my felting because the fibers are nice and bound together. They're getting tight. I'm not going to lose the structure of the egg now. So now I'm going to grab my bubble wrap and wrap my egg in the bubble wrap. So the bubble wrap will help increase the friction. And just rub the bubble wrap onto the egg. At any time, if you feel like your egg isn't felting as fast as it was, that's when you can add the hot water. The hot water really makes a difference. Okay. Now, at this stage, if you have children involved, and you can notice that the fibers have bonded enough together enough that they're not going to like slip off the egg. So now I would give them their bowl of water. So let's put water in here to make it. Now if you don't have kids involved, you can just keep doing what we were doing. So I would put the egg in the water, the kids play in the water, show them to rub it around in their hands. Sometimes they just look at it and they just get really enamored with their eggs. And as we felt, we talk about what animals lay eggs, about the birds and chickens and even dinosaurs. And then the children can rub the egg back and forth on the bubble wrap. Another thing they love to do is to actually pop the bubbles, of course. You just keep turning and turning. You can also do this, the adult, of course. And if you're working with children, now that they have their egg to felt, I would start making another egg. If you're hearing any sounds, that's Owen, my teenage son, upstairs, playing a game with his friends. Okay, and there you go. Here is the felted egg. Actually, rinsing it in cold water. You can put some really cold water in. The children, the cold water can also felt the egg. So you can add some really cold water in here and get the kids to rinse it and squeeze the soap out. And I'm gonna go rinse this egg in cold water underneath my sink, my kitchen sink. I'll be right back. As I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial, you can keep your eggs whole like this and just keep that plastic egg in there and use it as decoration. Or you can also create a little pouch for your egg. So how do you do that is you take good scissors and you just start cutting the side of the egg. So this is when it's really well felted. There you go. And the chick can fit in there. So if you know how to needle felt a chick is really simple. Wet felt a ball, wet felt a little mouth and 2 eyes. If you don't know how to wet felt and you're interested in learning, just let me know. One thing I'm going to do with these eggs, the ones that have a little slit in them, with my daycare kids, is when they come on Monday, I'm going to hide some little pine cones like I showed you at the beginning of the tutorial. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to put a little note and hide them every day. They're going to be hidden. I'm going to hide them in different spots, and they're going to find their egg with a different surprise in it every day. And then on Thursday, before they go home for the weekend, for Easter weekend, the surprise is going to be the little chick. Cheep, cheep. And there you go. We felted our eggs. Woo! Can even try juggling them. Woo! Not a very good juggler though. Can only do 2 at a time. I hope you... I hope that you're successful in felting your eggs. Woo! I hope you had fun. I hope your children had fun, and your daycare children, whoever your grandchildren, whoever you're felting with, even if you were by yourself, I hope you had a lot of fun. If you have any questions, I'm available. You can send me a personal message. You can send me an email. If there's anything that you want to learn how to felt and you're interested in learning something else, let me know. And happy spring!